good customer of mine, Damien Fryer. He's from England, but he loves bass fishing, and he fishes with me about twice a year. I don't know how many times he's fished with me, but it's been a bunch. And it's cold today. It's like 10 degrees below freezing. No, I'm just kidding. It's about 48 degrees. We got a pretty strong north wind, so I did pick up some live bait. A lot of times with Damien, we just fish artificial, but we're on Lake Toho. It's 6 feet deep. I don't know what the cold front's gonna do to these fish, so we're gonna make a video no matter how many fish we catch, just so people can see that these lakes aren't magic sometimes. But hopefully the magic will prevail and we're gonna catch a bunch of big fish somehow, because the water temperature is 65 degrees, which is, so it's dropped about 6 degrees overnight. Sometimes that's not good, but these are fish and they don't always act the way they're supposed to, so maybe we'll catch a bunch of big ones. So stay tuned. Okay. Oh, I just got a bite. Yep. Oh, and I missed him. But throw right out there, because on these shell beds.
Out there?
Yeah. On these shell beds, they'll all be right in the same spot.
Yeah.
Man, I let him eat it for a while. I let him eat it for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Did you feel him hit it like?
Yeah, it just tap. I wasn't really moving it, and he just pop, and then tighten the line out. It was kind of in that area there, but they should be. It may have been a single fish, but a lot of times they're all stacked up in the same spot. But I'm only pulling it about this much right here. I mean, super slow.
Oh right, that would be the question.
Especially in the wind. If the sinker comes off the bottom, it's gonna move a lot.
Yeah.
Because the wind's gonna blow it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just kind of doing this number right here. Oh, the water's 68. It's not 65. It's not too bad. It just sometimes when the temperature, the thermometer or the sensor is on the trolling motor.
Yeah.
And it was probably really cold when it was up in the air.
Oh,
and it took a while for it to regulate. Yeah, Texas rig worm is not the most exciting bait lure in the world to fish.
No, I enjoy it. I do.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Got him?
Yeah, don't leave it now. Oh, did have.
Oh, we did a long distance release. But they will bite lures on a shell bed. I just missed one in the same area. So when you're fishing these shell beds, especially after cold front, you're gonna, if you get a bite, you put your talons down and you sit there and cast in the same spot over and over.
Is that what it meant to move?
No, we got it screwed in there.
I was literally just pulling it then, and he hit it, so I was pulling it, and he took off, so I couldn't really give him any line on it. He's just sort of like hooked himself.
And like most days, I'm using my big 8-inch DOA CAL worm. I got a banged up 1/4 ounce screw and bullet weight with a 4-aught straight shanked hook. That's just the way I like to fish it. Nice and straight on there. Actually, this sinker's a little messed up. I missed one a second ago, and he just did a long distance release on one. But at least we know they're here and they're willing to bite, even though it's 20-something degrees cooler this morning with a hard north wind.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a fish? Oh, here's one.
Go on.
Oh, I got that one. Not a big one, but he thinks he's bigger than he is.
Yeah.
There we go. Post cold front, Florida bass fishing. Anybody up in Minnesota or anywhere that watches this video is gonna go, what a crybaby. It's 48 degrees. Or Canada, but I'm from Florida and this is cold. I have 3 layers of clothes on. That's a little 1.5 pound for there, off a mussel shell bed. Texas rigworm. Catch some more. And so they are actually schooling on this shell bed.
Yeah.
Not real hot and heavy, but they're schooling a little bit. Yep. There's one blowing a shad up right here.
Yeah.
See if they'll hit this.
I saw the shad go.
Oh, yep, there we go.
Has he got it?
Yep. On a red-eye shad. That worked out perfectly. They're not big fish, but I have caught a lot of big fish on this mussel shell bed. It's kind of a big deal on Toho beds. It's not always flipping grass. There's a lot of tournaments won on shell beds. There's a lot of big fish caught on shell beds. About this time last year, I had a guy catch a 914 on this shell bed. This one's just about 9 pounds shy of that 914. But he blew up out there and I threw on him and he ate it. Damien's jumped a couple off. There we go. Little chrome and blue red-eye shad. Yeah, so over my 20 years of guiding, I've gotten a lot of questions about cold fronts and why do cold fronts affect bass. And it's not just the cold. That's actually, that will affect them, but today we're the day after a cold front. It was warm yesterday and the day before that. This morning it's 20-something degrees colder than it was yesterday morning. That's not going to affect the fish that much because the water's not 20 degrees colder. The water this morning is maybe 2.5, 3 degrees cooler than it was yesterday morning. It's 68.7, about 2 feet down where my sensor is on my Minn Kota here. Yesterday morning it was 71, so that's not that big of a difference. What is affecting them is the barometric pressure. As the front's coming through, the barometric pressure drops. And that's an instinctive indicator to these fish to start feeding because they do not like rising barometric pressure. Once the barometric pressure stabilizes, and they get used to it, they get adjusted to it, they'll start feeding normally again. But they do not like it when that barometric pressure is increasing. That's why it can be tough some days the day after a cold front. But what you find out a lot of times is actually the toughest day is the second day after a cold front, especially on these shallow lakes, because they turn over quickly. With all this wind we have right now, this surface temperature is going to cool down a lot quicker than the water below it. And in a deeper lake, it takes a lot longer for it to cool down. On these shallow lakes, as that cold air is blowing across the water and it's churning the water, it's pushing that newly cooled water down. And the middle of this lake here on West Lake Toho is only 11 feet deep. They don't have big drop-offs or ledges they can run to. They're just kind of stuck here in this 4 to 6 feet of water, and they'll just kind of shut down. Whoop, we got one biting our shiner. I threw a shiner out here on this shell bed, but so it's several factors that go into why fishing slows down after a front. Today it is not because of the cold, more or less. It's because that barometric pressure is skyrocketing. We've got bluebird skies, very low humidity. That's usually a good indicator. And the front moved through yesterday. And I'm not exactly 100% positive why the barometric pressure affects them, because I still eat the same whether it's a cold front or not. I eat everything in sight. But the way it was explained to me years ago is one of the ways that keep fish swimming upright, so they're not just laying over on their side or spinning upside down, is they have a swim bladder that's pressurized, and that's like their balancing mechanism. Like we have 2 feet so we can stand up straight. They have a swim bladder that helps them balance. That swim bladder is greatly affected by rising or dropping barometric pressure. And when that barometric pressure increases, it puts pressure on their swim bladder, and it gives them sort of a nauseous feeling, and they don't feel like feeding as much. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, feel free to comment. I'm sure everybody will. But that's what I was told by a biologist. And when it decreases, it relieves pressure off that swim bladder. They can kind of sense that, but they know that that's a trigger that it's about to rise, because it's kind of like the stock market. After a rise it falls, and after a fall it rises. So when that front approaches and the barometric pressure drops, they feed like crazy. The day after the front, the barometric pressure is rising and they don't quite feel ready to eat, and so they just kind of sit there. We have got a few bites though on the shell bed this morning. I think I've caught one on a worm and one on this rattle trap deal, and Damien just put his first one on the boat on the worm. So we're going to keep plugging along, and we're going to try and prove this whole cold front theory wrong today. So keep watching. Got a bite?
Yeah, I think we dropped it though. No, we haven't. It's a monster.
A giant Florida largemouth bass. Woo! You caught one.
I'm off the mark, they're on her.
This.
I'll try and bother photographing that one.
It's bad luck to take pictures of them when they're small.
Yeah. You got those?
Yeah. Where'd they go? What did I do with those? Oh, they're right behind you there.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep the yoke, buddy.
I think I got some shiners in the tank about that size. They'll get bigger.
Well, only 12 to go.
Yep. Oh, that's right. All right, so we're gonna move on to our second spot. We actually had a little bit of activity out here, way more than I expected, being that it's a big Florida cold front. I think we put 3 in the boat. Damien jumped off a couple. There was actually a lot of feeding activity. There's more fish schooling on the surface than there was here the other day, but most of them were very small. So we're gonna run down the lake and try and get Damien some big fish and deal with this cold front here and see if we can overcome the elements today. So stick with us. Yeah, flip that bail over and let him load up on it.
Let him just come to me.
Well, he might not load up on it. You might have to. There you go.
Already, I felt it, yeah.
There you go.
No way out.
Not a big one, but they're here. Yeah.
Number 3 though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, he gave up.
He's tangled by the looks.
I wish they would do that in the tournament.
Not bad, is he? Sure.
Not too bad. Look at it, they just stop. They get grass on their face and they stop moving.
Not worth a photo now. Not big enough, is it? Nah. We're getting bigger than that, won't we?
Yeah. At least we know they're here.
Oh, it's the bobber slipped down, has it?
Yeah, you just got the braided line really cuts into it. I think I can still make a little video out of this. I'll do one about the fishing stinking.
Yeah, that's it.
So we're about to wrap it up today. Fishing was horrible. I think we caught 6 total. I caught 2 little ones here on Lake Toho. Damien caught 4. He had 2 on a worm. We did miss some fish, but we didn't really have a lot of bites. It started out in the mid 40s this morning, and now it's like 70 something, probably around 70 degrees. But it just goes to show you there's no such thing as a magical lake, and sometimes even guys that fish for a living struggle. Damien has fished with me a bunch of times before, and we've actually had some good trips. I think you've had another slow day with me another time.
Yeah, I had one of the butler chain.
Yeah, we had a bad day at the Butler chain too. But they did not bite on Lake Toho today. And the reports I've got from my buddies on the lake, they didn't bite either. So doesn't mean anything happened to the lake. Sometimes they don't eat. When they won't eat a shiner, you know you're in trouble. But like always, I'll be back out here tomorrow. Feel free to comment. Please subscribe to my channel and keep watching. See you later.